Magnus Carlsen is simply outplayed in this beautiful game by Alisher Suleyman in the Qatar Masters Open here. So Magnus is playing with the black pieces and Alisher with the white pieces here. And knight f3 is played by white, that is Alisher, and Magnus responds with b6, looking to fianchet the bishop. This is the queen's Indian defense on the board right now. So a3 is pushed here, allowing to push for b4 and launching the pawn structure on the queen side of the board. Bishop to a6 attacking the pawn here on c4 is played. Queen to c2 by Magnus defending this pawn here. So bishop now goes back to b7 fianchetting this bishop, and in case of a capture you'll have this double pawn structure over here. Knight c3 by white here and c5 by Magnus immediately, and e4 is pushed here. So you got these three pawns in the center of the board, challenging and attacking the pawn structures and getting control of the center. So c into d4, and knight recaptures the d4 pawn. Bishop comes to c5, attacking the knight, and knight retreats again to f3 here. So here this pawn is attacked twice by the knight and the bishop, and it's defended twice as well. So knight c6 by Magnus, and pawn push to b4, which was earlier prepared by a3, is pushed, hitting this particular bishop. Bishop retrieves to e7, and the position is equal after 10 moves here. So bishop to b2, fianchetting this bishop on this semi-open dark square diagonals, keeping it, making it a very dangerous piece already. And queen to b8 by Magnus, trying to exploit the other dark square diagonals basically. So rook to d1, getting control of this semi-open d file by white, and Magnus goes for castling on the king side of the board. Bishop e2 by white now, and d6 is pushed by Magnus. White now goes for castling on the king side of the board, and rook to c8, creating an x-ray attack on the white queen. Rook to e1 again by white, activating both the rooks, and bishop drawbacks to f8, protecting this pawn here on d7. So bishop to f1, both the players does the same thing, and a knight retrieves, and knight now comes to b5 here. So knight e8 is now played by Magnus, and actually the best move here was to bring the knight here to g6, but he didn't do that, and he retrieved the knight here, and after that knight to g5 is played by white, that is Alisher here, and he's already better in this particular position, because after knight g6 here, Magnus again make an inaccuracy. The best was to push h6 here, hit the knight, force it to retrieve. So e5 is now pushed by white, and instead of putting the bishop here and attacking the knight, Magnus goes for d5. This is a mistake here, and white is simply better already. So bishop to b3 here, but the best move was push to f4 here, but he didn't do that, and bishop now comes to e7 by Magnus, and knight goes for f7 capture here, sacrificing the knights temporarily, and Magnus goes for accepting the sacrifice, but the best move was to push the pawn here, hit this knight, and drive it away. So pawn captures and bishop captures back, but the best move was to bring the knight here and attack the knight. This is an attack on the queen, and white responds by capturing the bishop with his rook here, going for an exchange sacrifice here, and forces the capture, and immediately white captures the pawn back with a check here. So king is exposed, Magnus's king is exposed quite a bit here, and it had to go back to f8, and knight to d4 by white here. So knight f4 is played here. The idea is try to attack the queen, but the knight move here to c7 was best here instead of this move here. This allows the white to bring the queen back to f3, pinning this particular knight. So after that, king had to move away, and because pushing this pawn will also expose the Magnus's king, so he decided to give up the piece, and it was accepted. And after that, queen comes to b7, but queen to c7 was the best move, and knight goes to f5, attacking this bishop here. So pawn is pushed to b5 by Magnus, and immediately this capture of this b5 pawn is made here. So if the queen captures here, knight will capture, and it's a check, and the rook will be gone as well. And because of that, you can capture here. So bishop retrieves here, but the best move for Magnus was to bring the rook here to c2, attacking this particular bishop here. So using this opportunity, bishop goes to c4 with a check here, and king goes to h8, and knight h6 is played here. So I think here Magnus loses on time, and here this move you cannot capture here. This, if you capture, the game will be over like this. So, but even in this position, if you bring bishop to e7 here, the following moves will happen. The game is as good as over. After this following move, the knight will create this discovered check, and the queen will just come in here, and you're threatening checkmate here. And even if you move the knight or if you capture, there's no way you're going to save this, because even if you sacrifice the queen, the bishop will come in here, and still this checkmate is possible here. So after this, you have this option. So here this rook can capture this particular bishop like this. So if the rook captures, the queen will come in with the check, and after this, the checkmate will happen nonetheless. So because of that, the game is as good as done, and a brave attack against Magnus Carlsen by Alisher, who is just 2,500 rated, where Magnus is 2839 rated in this particular match. So that's the game. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.